All right, what I wanted to share with you upon looking at the notes that you took for the DBQ today was some ideas of how you can take better notes for a DBQ that'll be more useful to you when you're trying to sit down and write the essay. The problem that I noticed with a lot of people was that there was too little information in the notes, and again, this was just based on the notes that were entered into Juno, so this wouldn't count for everybody, but it might count for you, and you should see the notes that you have and see if this applies to you. There was a question from the document on Bacon's Rebellion. It was the first question, the first document. It said, how does this document help to address the question of this DBQ? So here was one example of a response. It said, it gives more historical information on the topic. That's correct, but there's no context for this. We don't know what topic is being spoken about, and there's just insufficient detail in addition to the fact that we can't refer to this source as the document on Bacon's Rebellion because it's not listed there in the sample response. You can have sufficient detail that will make all of these points clear. So I've got some good examples for you. This was sample response 2, where the person wrote down, it helps by telling us more about Bacon. Bacon was a farmer and young advisor to Virginia's Governor William Berkeley. He was upset with Berkeley, so he organized rebellion against Berkeley's rule. First time a lower class citizen has done that. I want to point out a few things. First, the context is very clear. We know exactly what event the person is speaking about. Secondly, there's great details in here about class conflict and how the lower class was rising up. And finally, the source is obvious, that it's the document regarding Bacon's Rebellion. One other sideline note, as you look at the comments that the person wrote, these are notes, so there's going to be spelling errors. We're not going to pay attention to spelling in the notes. We're simply going to make sure that we've got the main ideas there and we've got good specific details that we can refer to. Here's another sample response that also was good. Bacon and his followers rose up as the lower class against those who perhaps were born with more economic opportunity. Once again, we'll ignore spelling errors just to point out that the context is really clear in this case. There's sufficient detail about class and there's no question what the source is. I want to look at another couple of questions and some good responses to those. Number 3 said, was America a land of opportunity for indentured servants? And this was a sample response. America was definitely not a land of opportunity for indentured servants. Not at all. One cannot say that it is a great opportunity to have to sell off your own children to go to this land of opportunity. That's horrible. In the last sentence of the quoted statement, it states that in his native country, stay there rather than come to America. That exactly expresses how it was not a land of opportunity. Now, if this were Cornell notes, I'd look at this and I'd say you've got far too many details, but these are not Cornell notes. These are notes that you're going to use to write an essay, and what makes this response great, I think, is that it does not have too much detail, that in fact, there are some lines in here that you could copy directly into the essay, especially the sentence that begins, one cannot say that it's a great opportunity. So this will save you some time in the long run, and I think this sort of a response that not only captures details but reflects upon the details is super useful. Great response. Question number 7 asked about this guy Thomas Anbury, who had been captured in the Revolutionary War and marched to the South, and then he wrote about slavery in the South. The question said, should we reject the validity of Anbury's statement? This was a sample response. No, because it is true how the slaves in colonial America were treated poorly and always worked for no pay, that they worked until they died. They did not have a chance to do what they wanted. From the beginning, they were used as slaves. This is a great response because it's tapping into prior knowledge, and prior knowledge should always be a part of your DBQ response. So if there are topics that you already know a little bit about or maybe a lot about, include those details as well. That's what this respondent did very brilliantly. So remember these 4 points, okay? You want to make sure that the topic is clear when you're taking notes on a document, that you've got some specific details in there that you can use to support whatever claim you're making in your essay response, that the sources are noted on the document of Bacon's Rebellion, for example, or Thomas Anbury's statement about slavery, and finally that you can tap into any prior knowledge that you have. Do these things and you'll be set up very well to write an excellent DBQ.